The champagne cork hit the textured ceiling of our kitchen with a dull thwack, leaving a tiny dent right next to the water stain we'd been promising to fix for 6 years. Derek didn't even flinch. He just watched the little wisp of smoke curl out of the bottleneck, a grin plastered across his face that looked too wide, too bright, and entirely too satisfied for a Tuesday night. "To the moon, Sil," he said, pouring the sparkling wine into 2 mismatched mugs because all our good glasses were in the dishwasher. "To the supervisor position, to the end game." He clinked his mug against mine before I could even lift it. I watched him down half the glass in one gulp, the cheap bubbles fizzing over his lip. He looked like a king surveying his kingdom, oblivious to the fact that his throne was a squeaky vinyl chair and his kingdom was a house drowning in second mortgages. He was celebrating a victory he hadn't won yet, acting like the world was finally paying up. I didn't know it then, but 2 hours earlier, the promotion committee had already met, and they hadn't picked him. He was standing there, toasting to a future that had already been flushed down the toilet, confident he was the smartest guy in the room. God, I hate that grin. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. "It's just a bridge loan, Sylvia. It's leverage." Derek was pacing the length of our kitchen, his work boots leaving faint, muddy crescents on the linoleum I'd scrubbed that morning. The kitchen smelled like the reheated meatloaf I was trying to force down, but my stomach felt like it was full of wet cement. "We already transferred $12,000 in January," I said, staring at the spreadsheet he'd printed out. The ink was low, so the projected earnings bar graph was a faded ghost pink. "And another 8 in March for that. What was it?" "The consultant for your resume?" "Executive coaching," Derek corrected, stopping his pacing to lean over the table. He put both hands on the placemat, crowding my space. It was a move he did lately, physically dominating the conversation. And it worked. Look at me. I'm the front runner. But the committee... Sil, you know how these corporate sharks are. They smell weakness. If I show up to the final mixer in a suit from Men's Warehouse driving a truck that sounds like a lawnmower, I look desperate. Desperate guys don't get the regional supervisor gig. I rubbed my temples. My shift at the nursing home had run over by 2 hours because Mrs. Gable, no relation to our neighbor, just a coincidence, had a panic attack, and I had spent 40 minutes holding her hand while she screamed about a fire that wasn't there. I was exhausted. My bones felt heavy. "Derek," I whispered, "that money is Mom's. It's the last of it." "It's not spending, Sylvia. It's investing." He slammed his hand on the table, just hard enough to make the salt shaker jump. "Why do you always do this? I'm out there busting my ass, playing the game, dealing with idiots like Marcus who can't even run a safety audit without crying. And I come home to this? To penny pinching?" He walked over to the fridge and grabbed a beer, cracking it open with a sharp hiss. He took a long sip, staring at the wall, refusing to look at me. This was the punishment. The silence. "I'm doing this for us," he said, his voice dropping to that low, wounded register that always made me feel like a monster. "Once I get the spot, we're talking an 80% bump in base pay. We pay the inheritance back in 6 months. We fix the roof. We go to Italy like you wanted." He turned back, his eyes soft now, manipulative puppy dog eyes. "But I need to look the part, Sil. I need $5,000 to secure the deposit on the venue for the team dinner. I have to host. It shows leadership." I looked at the water stain on the ceiling. I looked at my husband, who looked so tired, so beaten down by a system he claimed was rigged against him. I remembered my mom, dying in that hospice bed, telling me to use the money to be happy. "Okay," I said, my voice barely a scratch in the air. "Okay, I'll move it tonight." He didn't say thank you. He just exhaled, like I was the burden he had finally managed to set down. "You won't regret this, babe. We're almost there." 3 days later, I was standing in the cafeteria line at the hospital, holding a tray with a plastic-wrapped turkey sandwich and a bottle of iced tea. The cashier, a girl named Brenda, who always had perfectly winged eyeliner, rang it up. $12.50, hun. I swiped my debit card. The machine thought for a second, then let out a harsh, mechanical beep. Declined. Oh, I laughed nervously, feeling the heat creep up my neck. Must be the chip. It's worn out. I swiped again. Beep. Insufficient funds, Brenda said, not whispering. The doctor behind me, a tall guy checking his pager, shifted his weight impatiently. That's not right, I stammered. I just got paid Friday. I fumbled for my credit card, the emergency visa we kept for car repairs. I swiped it. Approved. I grabbed the sandwich and practically ran to the break room, my heart hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I sat in the corner, ignoring the chatter of the other nurses, and pulled up the banking app on my phone. The signal in the basement was garbage, 1 bar of 3G that made the loading wheel spin for an eternity. Finally, the balance popped up. Checking. $42.18. Savings, $0.0. I stared at the screen. The sandwich tasted like sawdust in my mouth. I scrolled down the transaction history. The $5,000 I'd transferred for Derek's team dinner was there. But below it, dated yesterday, was a withdrawal I hadn't authorized. POS debit, Lucky 7 Holdings. $200 POS debit, Lucky 7 Holdings. $800 ATM withdrawal. $400. Lucky 7? I whispered. I dialed the bank immediately. The automated voice made me punch in my account number, then my social, then asked for my telephone banking PIN, which I didn't know because Derek handled the finances. Representative. I hissed at the phone. Representative. Finally, a human came on. Security verification. Can you confirm the amount of your last deposit? It was my paycheck. $2,100, I guessed. And can you verify the secondary authorized user's voice code? My husband? No, he's at work. Look, there are charges here for Lucky 7 Holdings. What is that? I can't discuss specific merchant details without full verification, ma'am. But generally, that merchant category code is associated with entertainment and gaming. Gaming? I felt the blood drain from my face. Like video games? Like casinos, ma'am. I hung up. The phone felt hot in my hand. Derek wasn't networking. He wasn't hosting dinners. He was gambling. The Lucky 7 wasn't a glitzy Vegas resort. It was a sad, sprawling concrete box 2 towns over, squeezed between a pawn shop and a gentleman's club, with a burnout neon sign. I sat in my Honda Civic in the far corner of the parking lot, the rain drumming relentlessly against the roof. It was 9:00 p.m. Derek had texted me at 6 Quarcy. Late night at the plant. Inventory audit. Don't wait up. If he was gambling away my mother's money, I was going to catch him in the act. I was going to drag him out by his ear and scream until the windows shattered. I watched the doors. People shambled in and out like zombies. An old woman with an oxygen tank. A group of guys in construction vests laughing too loud. I scanned the rows of cars. I was looking for Derek's Ford F-150, the black one with the Visualize World Peas bumper sticker I'd put on it as a joke 10 years ago. For 2 hours, I stared until my eyes watered. The rain blurred everything into streaks of red and yellow light. Every time a truck pulled in, my heart jumped into my throat. At 10:15 p.m., a black Ford pulled into a spot near the entrance. I sat up, adrenaline flooding my system. The driver's door opened. A man stepped out. He had Derek's build, broad shoulders, work jacket. I unbuckled my seatbelt, my hand reaching for the door handle. I was going to kill him. The man turned into the light of a street lamp. He took off a baseball cap and scratched a bald head. It wasn't Derek. I sank back into the seat, feeling foolish and cold. I checked my phone. No texts. I looked at the Lucky 7 charges on my app again. Maybe I was wrong? Maybe Lucky 7 was a holding company for a catering service or a venue rental. I sat there for another hour watching strangers ruin their lives, realizing I was just sitting in the dark, spying on nothing. I was paranoid. I was crazy. Derek was working. He was working for us. I started the car and drove home, crying the whole way, feeling guilty for doubting him. I was sitting at the kitchen table when he walked in at 11:30 p.m. He looked exhausted, real exhaustion, the kind that hangs under your eyes in purple bruises. "Hey," he said, tossing his keys on the counter. "You're up?" "I saw the bank account, Derek," I said. I didn't have the energy to shout. He froze, one arm halfway out of his jacket. "What?" "Lucky 7 Holdings, $2,000. The bank said it's a casino." Derek stared at me for a long second, and then he did something I didn't expect. He laughed. He threw his head back and laughed, a sharp barking sound. "You think I'm gambling?" He walked over to the fridge and grabbed a water bottle. "Serious, Sil? You think I'm at the slots?" "Then what is it?" I demanded, standing up. "Where is the money?" "It's the venue deposit, Sylvia." He slammed the fridge door. The event hall is owned by the Lucky 7 Group. They own half the commercial real estate in the county. The audit dinner is at the banquet hall next to the casino. He looked at me with such disappointment, shaking his head. "I'm there, sweating through a 4-hour inventory review with the regional VP, trying to make sure we don't get shut down, and you're here playing detective, checking merchant codes?" I drove there, I admitted, my voice small. "I sat in the parking lot." Derek's face went cold. "You spied on me?" "I was worried." "You're suffocating me, Sarah." He used my full name. He never used my full name. "I am doing everything to fix this family's future. And you treat me like a criminal because of a credit card label. You know how humiliating that is? That my own wife doesn't trust me?" "I'm sorry," I said, tears pricking my eyes. The money is going so fast, and it'll come back 10-fold next month." He grabbed my shoulders, his grip tight. "We are a team. You need to hold the line, Sil. Can you do that? Can you just trust me for 2 more weeks?" I nodded, feeling the shame wash over me. "I can. I'm sorry, Derek." He kissed my forehead. It felt like a benediction. "Go to bed. I have to finish these reports." 2 nights later, I was walking to my car in the hospital parking garage. It was 2 a.m. I'd picked up a swing shift because we needed the grocery money. The concrete structure was echoing and empty, the fluorescent lights buzzing like trapped flies. I unlocked my Civic and tossed my bag in the passenger seat. As I reached for the door handle, a shadow detached itself from a concrete pillar. "Mrs. Brennan!" I screamed, dropping my keys. I scrambled back, fumbling for the pepper spray I kept on my keychain. "Whoa, hey, it's me! It's Marcus!" The man stepped into the light, holding his hands up. I blinked, my heart hammering against my ribs. It was Marcus Torres, Derek's co-worker, the one Derek called the Weasel, the one Derek said was incompetent and trying to sabotage the department. He looked terrible. His work uniform was wrinkled, and he looked like he hadn't slept in a week. "Marcus?" I picked up my keys, my hand shaking. "Jesus, you scared me to death. What are you doing here?" "I couldn't come to the house," he said, his voice dropping to a whisper. He looked around the empty garage nervously. "Derek, he'd see me." "Is everything okay? Did something happen to Derek?" "No," Marcus laughed, a bitter, dry sound. "Derek is fine. Derek is great." He took a step closer, his eyes intense. "Look, I shouldn't be here. But you covered my shift last month when my kid had the flu. You're a good person, Sylvia." "What is this about, Marcus?" "He's lying to you," Marcus said. The words hung in the damp air. "Excuse me?" I bristled. "If this is about the promotion, it's not about the promotion. Well, it is, but not how you think." Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper, then hesitated and shoved it back. I can't give you this yet. You won't believe me." "Marcus, I'm going home." I opened my car door. "Check the mileage," he blurted out. I froze. "What?" "His truck, the F-150. He says he's at the factory doing overtime every night, right? Inventory audits? Safety checks?" "Yes," I said slowly. "It's a 12-mile round trip to the plant," Marcus said. Check his odometer tonight, and then check it tomorrow. If he's at the factory, it should add 12 miles, but it won't. Where is he then? He's not at the factory, Sylvia, and he's not alone. Marcus backed away into the shadows. Just check the mileage, please. I didn't want to check. Checking felt like a betrayal. Checking meant I was the crazy wife Derek said I was, but when I got home, the house was dark. Derek's truck was in the driveway. I walked past it. I paused. I pulled my phone out and used the flashlight. I peered through the driver's side window. The digital odometer was dark. I couldn't see it without the key. I went inside, my heart thumping. Derek was asleep on the couch, the TV playing an infomercial for non-stick pans. His keys were on the coffee table. I crept over, feeling like a thief in my own home. I grabbed the keys, I went back outside. I unlocked the truck and turned the ignition just enough to light up the dashboard. Odometer, 142,894. I wrote it down on a CVS receipt in my pocket. The next morning, Saturday, Derek left at 8:00 a.m. Emergency safety drill, he said, chugging his coffee. Back by 5. I waited. The day dragged. I cleaned the bathroom. I reorganized the pantry. I watered the dead plants on the porch. Mrs. Gable, my actual neighbor, not the patient, was out on her lawn, wrestling with a green garden hose that was kinked in 3 places. She was a nosy woman, the kind who measured your grass height with a ruler, but today I needed a distraction. "Hi, Mrs. Gable," I waved. She looked up, squinting. "Oh, hello, Sylvia. Didn't think you were home." "Just catching up on chores," I said, walking over to the fence. "Derek's at the factory again." Mrs. Gable paused, holding the hose nozzle. She gave me a weird look, a pitying look. "The factory?" she said. "On a Saturday?" "Yeah, big safety drill." "Funny," she said, turning the water on, "because I saw him leave. He didn't take the truck." I frowned. "What?" "He took the sedan," she said, spraying her hydrangeas. "The blue one." We don't have a blue sedan," I said. "We have the truck and my Civic." Mrs. Gable stopped spraying. She looked at me, realizing she'd stepped in something. "Oh, well, maybe it was a rental?" "A dark blue Toyota. He pulled it out of the garage around 8, had a kayak rack on top." "A kayak rack?" I felt the world tilt. Derek hated the water. He couldn't swim. "Yeah, and he was wearing, well, shorts. Looked like he was going to the lake, not a factory." I stared at her. "The garage." We used the detached garage for storage. It was always locked. Derek had the only key because he said it was unsafe due to structural issues. "Thanks, Mrs. Gable," I said, my voice hollow. I walked back to the house. I didn't wait for the odometer. I walked straight to the detached garage. The side door of the garage was locked. I tried my key. It didn't fit. Of course. He'd changed the lock. I circled to the back. There was a window painted shut years ago. I found a loose brick from the garden border and smashed the bottom pane. It wasn't elegant. It was loud and messy, and glass shattered everywhere. I reached in, unlocked the latch, and shoved the window up. I climbed through, scraping my shin on the sill. The garage was hot and smelled of dust and gasoline. There was no blue Toyota. The space where we used to keep the lawnmower was empty, except for a clean rectangular patch on the dusty concrete floor. A car had been parked here. Recently. I looked around. On the workbench, where Derek supposedly kept his tools, there was a duffel bag. I unzipped it. It wasn't tools. It was clothes. Nice clothes. Linen shirts I'd never seen. Expensive sunglasses. A bottle of cologne that cost more than my weekly grocery budget, and a small black moleskin notebook. I opened it. It was a ledger. Jan 12. JP Rent. 1-800 Febs 01. JP Car Note. $450 Feb 14. Jewelry. $600 Feb 28. Lawyer retainer. A divorce. $2,500. The word divorce hit me like a physical punch to the gut. He wasn't just cheating. He was planning. He was funding his exit strategy with my money. I heard the rumble of an engine outside, the crunch of gravel. Derek was home early. I panicked. I grabbed the notebook. I scrambled back toward the window, but I heard the garage door opener whirring to life. The big main door began to roll up. I couldn't get out the window in time. I dove behind a stack of old cardboard boxes in the corner, clutching the notebook to my chest. The blue Toyota rolled in. It was shiny, new. A 2023 Camry. Derek was driving. He was wearing aviator sunglasses and laughing into his phone via Bluetooth. "Yeah, babe, I'm just swapping the cars now. She doesn't suspect a thing. She's not the sharpest tool in the shed." He parked. He got out. He was 5 feet away from me. He whistled a tune. He opened the trunk and pulled out a wet life vest. Then he stopped. He looked at the workbench. "Where is it?" he muttered. He started tossing things around on the bench. He was looking for the notebook. I held my breath. My heart was beating so loud I was sure he could hear it. He turned and scanned the garage. His eyes passed over the boxes. "Damn it," he hissed. He grabbed the duffel bag. He walked back to the car, threw the bag in the passenger seat, and backed the car out of the garage. He didn't see me. I waited until the engine faded. I climbed out from behind the boxes, shaking so hard I could barely stand. I had the notebook. I had the proof. I looked down at my hand. I didn't have the notebook. In my panic, when I dove behind the boxes, I must have dropped it. I looked at the floor. It wasn't there. I looked at the workbench. It was gone. Derek hadn't left because he couldn't find it. He had found it. He grabbed it when he grabbed the bag. I had held the smoking gun for 30 seconds, and I had lost it. I sat in the booth at the Iron Skillet, a diner 2 towns over, staring at a plate of cold fries. It was Sunday morning. I had told Derek I was going to church. He didn't care. He was too busy prepping for the committee. Marcus slid into the booth opposite me. He looked even worse than before. "Did you check the mileage?" he asked without preamble. "I didn't need to," I said. "I saw the car, the blue Toyota." Marcus nodded grimly. "The Camry. Yeah, he bought it 3 months ago, registered it to a P.O. box." "Who is she, Marcus?" Marcus sighed. He pulled a manila folder out of his backpack. "You found the notebook, didn't you? But he took it back?" "How did you know?" "Because he came into work yesterday in a panic, shredding documents. He knows someone was in the garage." Marcus opened the folder. "But he can't shred this." He slid a photo across the table. It was a printout from a company newsletter, a group photo of the marketing team. "Third from the left," Marcus said. She was beautiful, blonde, confident, smiling, younger than me, probably 35. "Juliana Palmer," Marcus said, "head of regional marketing and the owner of a brand new townhouse in Riverside Commons." "Riverside Commons?" I whispered. "That place is expensive." "Yeah, and do you know who co-signed the lease?" Marcus slid another paper across. It was a photocopy of a lease agreement. Tenant, Juliana Palmer. Co-signer, Derek Brennan. "He's not just sleeping with her, Sylvia," Marcus said, his voice trembling with anger. "He's building a life with her, and he's using me to do it." "What do you mean?" "The supervisor job," Marcus said. "It's not open. It's my job. I'm the acting supervisor. I've been doing the job for a year. Derek isn't up for a promotion. He's trying to get me fired so the position opens up." He showed me a stack of incident reports. "He's been logging fake safety violations under my name. He's been sabotaging equipment on my shift and writing me up for it. He's trying to destroy my pension, Sylvia. If I get fired for cause, I lose everything. And he takes my spot." I looked at the papers. The dates matched the nights Derek said he was working late. He wasn't working. He was forging documents to ruin a good man's life. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Why not go to HR?" "Because HR loves him," Marcus said. "He charms them, and because I didn't want to hurt you. I know about the inheritance. You know?" "Everyone knows," Marcus said gently. "Derek brags about it. He calls it his angel fund. He says you're easy to manage." That broke something inside me. The last thread of doubt snapped. I need proof, I said, my voice hardening. Real proof, not just photocopies. I can get you into the system, Marcus said, but you need to find the money trail. If you can prove he's embezzling, that's a felony. That stops him. The Millbrook Public Library smelled of old paper and lemon floor wax. I sat at computer terminal number 4, wearing a hoodie, looking over my shoulder every 10 seconds. Marcus had given me a tip. Derek used the same password for everything. Wedding date. I logged into his personal email, the one he never let me see. Incorrect password. My stomach dropped. He had changed it. I clicked, forgot password. Security. Question. What is your pet's name? We didn't have a pet, but he used to have a dog growing up. Buster. I typed Buster. Incorrect, I thought. What did he love? Who did he care about? I typed Juliana. Access granted. I almost vomited on the keyboard. I opened the inbox. It was a graveyard of our marriage. Zillow alerts for luxury townhomes. Receipts for Lover's Getaway, Niagara Falls. But the sent folder was worse. It was full of emails to credit card companies. Subject, credit limit increase request. Body, income has increased significantly. Please bump limit to $20,000. He had opened 3 new credit cards in my name. He had forged my electronic signature. I opened the bank statements attached to the emails. The $58,000 inheritance? Gone. The $10,000 emergency fund? Gone. The equity line of credit on the house? Maxed out. He hadn't just spent the cash. He had leveraged us into bankruptcy. I found a spreadsheet titled exittimeline.xlsx. I opened it. June 15th, secure supervisor role. July 1st, file for divorce, cite irreconcilable differences. July 15th, move to Riverside. Note, ensure Sylvia takes the debt. House is underwater anyway. He had a date. He had a plan to leave me with the debt for the life he stole from me. I printed everything. The printer hummed and clicked, spitting out page after page of my destruction. I needed to see it. The emails were words. The lease was paper. I needed to see them. The emails mentioned a standing reservation. Tuesdays at 6 p.m. at the Onyx, a bistro in the city district where entrees started at $40. It was Tuesday, 5:45 p.m. I parked my rusted Honda across the street. I slouched down in the seat, wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap. At 6:05 p.m., the blue Toyota pulled up. Valet parking. Derek got out. He was wearing a suit I'd never seen, charcoal gray, tailored. He looked handsome. He looked rich. He walked around the car and opened the passenger door. Juliana stepped out. She was stunning. She wore a black dress and red heels. She touched his arm, and he leaned in to whisper something that made her throw her head back and laugh. It wasn't the sexiness of it that killed me. It was the comfort. They walked into the restaurant like a married couple. They didn't look over their shoulders. They didn't look guilty. They looked entitled. I watched through the restaurant window. They sat at a corner table. The waiter brought wine. Derek paid with a black card. I zoomed in with my phone camera. It was the emergency vet credit card we had opened when we thought we were getting a dog years ago. The one I thought was closed. He was buying her Pinot Noir with the credit line meant for a non-existent puppy. I watched them toast. Derek raised his glass just like he had in our kitchen. To us, I imagined him saying. I put my phone down. I didn't cry. I was done crying. I felt something cold and hard settle in my chest, replacing the panic. It was a clarity I hadn't felt in 18 years. He thought I was stupid. He thought I was weak. He thought I was easy to manage. I started the car. Okay, Derek, I said to the empty Honda. You want an exit strategy? I'll give you one. I got home 20 minutes before Derek. Usually this was the panic window, the time I spent frantically wiping counters, putting a fresh pot of coffee on, and making sure the house didn't look like I'd been gone for 12 hours. Tonight, I did none of that. I walked into the kitchen, which still held the faint, stale smell of this morning's toast. I poured myself a glass of tap water. I sat down at the table with a People magazine I'd stolen from the hospital waiting room. I didn't turn on the oven. I didn't thaw the chicken. I just sat there, reading an article about a celebrity whose plastic surgery had gone wrong, waiting for the sound of the truck. At 7:15 p.m., the front door rattled. Derek walked in, bringing a gust of humid night air with him. He looked wired, that manic energy he always had when he'd been with Juliana. Man, what a day, he exhaled, tossing his jacket onto the couch. Traffic on the bridge was a nightmare. I think there was a wreck. He was lying. There was no bridge between the factory and our house. The bridge was between our house and the city bistro. Is that so? I said, not looking up from the magazine. He paused. He walked into the kitchen, expecting the usual greeting. He stopped when he saw the empty stove. Is dinner in the oven? He asked, opening the fridge and peering into the emptiness. No, I said, turning a page. Oh, did we order out? I didn't see a pizza box. I finally looked at him. I imagined him 3 hours ago clinking expensive wine glasses with Juliana, eating filet mignon on my dime. I'm not hungry, I said calmly. I had a big lunch. Okay. Derek frowned, the confusion warping his face. But I'm hungry, Sil. I've been working since 8. There's cereal, I said, and I think there's some leftover meatloaf, but it might be turning. Cereal? He laughed, a short, incredulous sound. I'm a grown man, Sylvia. I can't eat Fruit Loops for dinner after a 10-hour shift. Then cook, I said. I stood up, closing the magazine. I'm going to take a bath. Whoa, hold on. He stepped in front of me, his charm flickering out, replaced by annoyance. What is this? Are you still on about the gambling thing? Because I told you. I'm tired, Derek. I cut him off. My voice was flat, dead. I worked a double. My feet bleed. I'm not your chef. Figure it out. I walked past him. He stood there, stunned, like an appliance that had suddenly stopped working. My blue shirt, he called after me, his voice rising. I need the Oxford blue for the committee meeting on Thursday. Is it ironed? I stopped on the stairs. I didn't turn around. It's in the hamper, I said. You know where the iron is. I went into the bathroom and locked the door. I didn't take a bath. I sat on the edge of the tub and texted Marcus. I'm ready. Give me the number for HR. Wednesday morning, I called in sick to the nursing home. I had never called in sick in 18 years. My supervisor asked if I was dying. Something like that, I told her. I sat in my car in the parking lot of the Target 2 miles from the factory and dialed the number Marcus had given me. Millbrook Manufacturing, Human Resources. I need to speak to Cynthia Vance, I said. My hand was shaking so bad I had to grip the steering wheel. Ms. Vance is in a meeting. Can I take a message? Tell her it's Sylvia Brennan, Derek Brennan's wife. Tell her I have the ledger. There was a pause, a click. Then, 10 seconds later, a sharp, professional voice came on the line. Mrs. Brennan? Ms. Vance, I said. I had rehearsed this. I had written it down on index cards. I am currently in possession of a physical ledger and digital files proving that my husband has been embezzling company funds, falsifying safety records to frame Marcus Torres, and using stolen marital assets to fund a secondary residence. Silence. Long, heavy silence. Mrs. Brennan, Cynthia said slowly, her voice dropping an octave, are you somewhere safe? I'm at Target, I said. Is that safe? I'm going to be honest with you, Cynthia said. We've been building a file on Derek for 6 months. We flagged the irregularities in the maintenance budget back in February. But every time we got close, he covered his tracks or shifted the blame to Mr. Torres. Without a witness or a direct paper trail linking the funds to him personally, legal advised us not to terminate. He's litigious. He is, I agreed. He sues everyone. If you bring me that ledger, Cynthia said, and if you are willing to sign an affidavit stating that the funds were used for personal gain, we can end this. Today. Not today, I said. Thursday. Thursday? He has a meeting with you Thursday at 10 a.m. He thinks it's for the promotion. It is, Cynthia said dryly. It's the final interview. I want to be there, I said. Mrs. Brennan, that is highly irregular. It's a closed corporate proceeding. He stole $58,000 from my dead mother, I said, and he's going to walk into that room thinking he's king of the world. I want to be the one who tells him he's just the court jester. If I don't get to be in the room, I burn the ledger. A longer silence. I heard Cynthia tapping a pen against her desk. Come to the side entrance at 9:45, she said. Ask for Maria and bring the originals. Wednesday night was surreal. The house felt like a stage set where the actors had forgotten their lines but were still going through the motions. Derek was giddy, actually giddy. He was pacing the living room, holding a tumbler of whiskey, practicing his acceptance speech. I'm going to focus on efficiency, he told the heir. We need to trim the fat, get rid of the dead weight like Marcus and bring in some fresh blood, maybe modernize the inventory system. I was standing at the ironing board in the dining room, pressing his blue Oxford shirt. The steam hissed up, hot and wet. That sounds smart, Derek, I said. It is smart. It's visionary. He stopped and looked at me. Hey, thanks for doing the shirt. I know you were weird yesterday. I was just tired, I said, pressing the iron down hard on the collar. I want you to look your best tomorrow. I will. He came over and kissed me on the cheek. It felt like being kissed by a lizard, cold, detached. Once this goes through, Syl, things are going to change. I promise. No more late nights. We'll take that trip. I know things will change, I said. I hung the shirt on a hanger and smoothed the fabric. I really believe that. He looked at the shirt. Sharp. That's a supervisor's shirt. It is, I said. I watched him walk away to check his reflection in the hallway mirror. He preened, adjusting his hair. He had no idea that I had already packed a suitcase and hidden it in the trunk of my car. He had no idea that the change coming wasn't a trip to Italy, but a trip to the unemployment line. You should get some sleep, I told him. Big day. Huge day, he grinned. 6 a.m. The alarm went off. Derek sprang out of bed like he'd been electrocuted. He was whistling, actually whistling. I lay there for a minute, staring at the ceiling fan. This was the last time I would wake up in this bed, the last time I would see the crack in the plaster that looked like a lightning bolt. I got up. I went to the kitchen. I made coffee. Derek came in 10 minutes later, showered, shaved, smelling of that expensive cologne he'd bought with my money. He was wearing the blue shirt. Do I look like a boss? He asked, spreading his arms. You look like $1 million, I said, or 58,000. He sat down and shoveled oatmeal into his mouth. The sound of his chewing, that wet, smacking sound, filled the kitchen. I gripped my mug so hard my knuckles turned white. You're not eating? He asked. Nervous stomach, I said. Don't be nervous for me, babe. I got this locked. He checked his watch. All right, showtime, wish me luck. Good luck, Derek, I said. He grabbed his keys. I'll call you around noon. We'll go out for dinner to celebrate. Somewhere nice. Not the diner. Okay, I said. He walked out the door. I waited until I heard the truck start. I waited until I heard it back out of the driveway and roar down the street. Then I stood up. I walked to the sink and poured my coffee down the drain. I went to the bedroom, grabbed the folder of documents from under the mattress, grabbed my purse, and walked out the door. I didn't lock it. I didn't care who got in. The administrative building of Millbrook Manufacturing was known as the Fishbowl because all the offices had glass walls. It was designed to intimidate the factory workers when they got called up for discipline. I met Marcus at the side door at 9:45 a.m. He looked pale, sweating through his work uniform. You have it? He whispered. I patted my bag. I have it. Cynthia is waiting, he said. Follow me. Keep your head down. We walked through the back corridors, past the break rooms and the janitorial closets. My heart was thumping a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I felt like a spy. I felt like an imposter. We reached the HR suite. Maria, the assistant, nodded at us and pointed to a small conference room adjacent to Cynthia's office. "He's coming up the elevator," Maria whispered. "Go, now." We slipped into the conference room. The lights were off. Through the blinds on the connecting window, I could see into Cynthia's office. It was stark. A metal desk, 3 chairs. Cynthia sat behind the desk, looking like a statue carved out of ice. "He's here," Marcus hissed. I heard the heavy footsteps in the hallway. Then Derek's voice. "Morning, Maria. Lovely day, huh?" "Mr. Brennan," Maria's voice was tight, "they're ready for you." Derek walked into Cynthia's office. He strode in like he owned the building. He sat down without being asked, crossing his legs, leaning back. "Cynthia," he nodded, "ready to get this show on the road. I have some ideas for the Q3 projections I wanted to run by you." I watched through the blinds. I was 3 feet away from him, separated by a pane of glass and a flimsy metal blind. "We aren't here to discuss Q3, Mr. Brennan," Cynthia said. She didn't open a file. She didn't smile. "Oh?" Derek chuckled, but it was nervous. "Right. The formalities first. I get it." "We are here to discuss your termination," Cynthia said. The silence in the room was absolute. Even through the glass, I felt the air leave the room. Derek blinked. Excuse me?" "Your employment is terminated, effective immediately," Cynthia said. She slid a single piece of paper across the desk. "Security is waiting to escort you out." Derek stared at the paper. Then he laughed, a high, incredulous bark. "Okay, good joke. Hazing the new supervisor? Is this some kind of stress test?" "We have documented evidence of 142 instances of falsified safety records," Cynthia read from a clipboard. "We have evidence of embezzlement of factory petty cash totaling $12,000, and we have evidence of a conflict of interest regarding vendor contracts with Lucky 7 Holdings." Derek's face went from confused to red in 3 seconds. He stood up. "That's a lie," he shouted. "That's Marcus. Torres is setting me up. He's the one checking the safety logs. He's the incompetent one." "Sit down, Mr. Brennan," Cynthia said. She didn't flinch. "No, I want a lawyer. You can't fire me based on the word of a jealous subordinate. I'll sue this company into the ground. I have a reputation. Who is your source? Who verified this?" "My source," Cynthia said, looking past him toward the conference room door, "is verified." She nodded. I opened the door. I walked into the office. Derek turned around. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. He looked at me, then looked at the door, then back at me. His brain couldn't process the image. Sylvia, his doormat wife, in the HR office. "Sylvia," he whispered. What are you doing here? Did they call you?" "Hello, Derek," I said. My voice was steady. It surprised me how steady it was. "Syl, you need to tell them," Derek stammered, pointing at me. "Tell them about the long hours. Tell them how hard I work. They're trying to frame me." I walked over to the desk. I pulled the black moleskin notebook out of my purse. I dropped it on Cynthia's desk. Thud. Derek stared at the notebook. The color drained from his face so fast he looked like a corpse. "I verified the hours, Derek," I said. "I checked the mileage. You weren't at the factory." "Sylvia, don't," he pleaded, his voice cracking. "You don't understand. That book, that's just notes." "And the bank transfers?" I pulled out the spreadsheet. $58,000, Derek. My mother's money. Spent on Juliana Palmer. He flinched at the name. I can explain that," he said. He was sweating now, gross, oily sweat beading on his forehead. "It was an investment. Juliana she's a business partner. We were flipping that townhouse. It was for us." "Stop," I said, "just stop." "I verified the kayak trip, Derek," I said, looking him dead in the eyes. "Mrs. Gable saw you. You weren't doing a safety audit. You were at the lake. With her." I turned to Cynthia. "He forged my signature on 3 credit card applications. I have the affidavits here." Cynthia looked at Derek. Mr. Brennan, in addition to termination, we are handing this evidence over to the district attorney. This is grand larceny and identity theft. Derek looked at me. His eyes were wide, terrified, and pleading. Sil, baby, please, we can fix this. Don't do this. We're a team. We were never a team, I said. I was just your bank account. I turned my back on him. I'm done, Cynthia. 2 security guards, massive guys with necks thick as tree trunks, stepped into the room. Mr. Brennan, one of them said. Badge. Derek fumbled for his ID badge. His hands were shaking so bad he dropped it. He had to bend down to pick it up, humiliating himself further. I need my things, Derek mumbled. My locker. We've already cleared your locker, Cynthia said. She pointed to a cardboard box in the corner. It held a framed photo of us face down, a stress ball, and a dirty coffee mug. One of the guards handed him the box. They marched him out. I followed, keeping my distance. Marcus walked beside me. We walked out onto the main factory floor. The machines were humming, the rhythmic clank hiss of the presses. As Derek walked down the central aisle, the walk of shame, the noise seemed to drop. Workers looked up. They saw the golden boy, the supervisor-to-be, clutching a cardboard box flanked by security. He kept his head down, staring at his shoes. Marcus stopped. He stood tall. He didn't gloat. He didn't shout. He just watched. Derek passed a group of guys from the loading dock, guys he had promised raises to, guys he had lied to. One of them, a big guy named Tiny, spat on the floor as Derek passed. Derek didn't react. He just kept walking, out the double doors, into the bright, unforgiving sunlight. I stayed at the factory for an hour to sign paperwork with the legal team. By the time I drove home, it was noon. Derek's truck was in the driveway. He was sitting on the front steps, his head in his hands. The cardboard box was next to him. I pulled up to the curb but didn't cut the engine. He stood up when he saw me. He ran to the car window. Sylvia! He banged on the glass. Open the door. We need to talk. I rolled the window down 2 inches. There's nothing to talk about, I said. This is my house, he screamed. Spittle flew onto the glass. You can't lock me out. I pay the mortgage. Actually, I said, reaching into the passenger seat, you haven't paid the mortgage in 4 months. I held up the envelope I'd found in his home office pile during my raid on Wednesday. It was red, notice of default. I intercepted the mail, Derek, I said. I know about the foreclosure proceedings. I know you stopped paying the house to pay for Juliana's furniture. I was going to catch up, he yelled, once the bonus came in. There is no bonus, I said, and there is no house. I called the bank this morning. I told them I'm vacating. They can have it. You're leaving me? He looked shocked, truly shocked, as if he couldn't conceive of a world where I didn't wait for him. I'm leaving you, I said, and I'm taking the car. It's in my name. Where am I supposed to go? He demanded. I have no money. You froze the accounts. Go to Riverside Commons, I said. Go live in the townhouse you bought with my mother's money. Oh, wait, I called Juliana too. Derek froze. I sent her the bank statements, I said. I showed her that you weren't a rich investor, that you were stealing from your nurse wife. I don't think she's going to open the door, Derek. He stared at me, his mouth working silently. Goodbye, Derek. I rolled up the window. I put the car in gear. I drove away, leaving him standing on the lawn of a house the bank already owned, holding a box of trash. My new apartment was above a bakery called Miller's Yeast. It was 1 room, a studio. The floor was warped wood that slanted to the left. The radiator in the corner clanked like a dying engine every 20 minutes. It smelled intensely of sourdough starter and old paint. It was the most beautiful place I had ever seen. I carried my 2 boxes up the narrow staircase. I didn't have much. My clothes, my mom's photo album, a coffee pot, the air mattress I'd bought at Walmart. I set the box down on the floor. I opened the window. The sounds of Main Street drifted up. Cars passing, kids shouting, the bell of the bakery door below. I sat on the floor. I had $11 in my wallet. I had massive credit card debt to untangle, though the fraud alerts were helping. I had no husband. I had no house. I pulled a sandwich out of my bag, a turkey sub I'd bought at the gas station. I took a bite. It tasted like freedom. I looked around the empty room. For 18 years, I had made myself small to fit into Derek's life. I had shrunk until I was invisible. Here, in this tiny, crooked room, I could expand. I could breathe. I took a deep breath, filling my lungs with the smell of bread. I wasn't happy yet, but I was safe. And for the first time in a long time, the silence didn't feel like a punishment. It felt like peace. So, it's been 3 months. I know you guys want to know where everyone landed. Derek. He's currently living in his truck, or what's left of it. He had to sell the kayak rack. The district attorney did pick up the case. He's facing 2 counts of embezzlement and 1 count of identity theft. His lawyer is a public defender because he couldn't afford a private one. He tries to call me sometimes from blocked numbers, crying about how we can fix this. I changed my number. Juliana. This was the kicker. The day I drove away, she did dump him, but not before she tried to sue me for harassment for sending her the bank statements. That got thrown out. She lost the townhouse because Derek's name was on the lease as the guarantor, and he has no income. Last I heard, she moved back to the city and is trying to rebrand herself as a life coach. Marcus. Marcus is the supervisor. He got the promotion 2 weeks after Derek was walked out. He sent me a card last week. Inside was a check for $1,200. The factory whistleblower reward policy I didn't even know existed. He also got me a job interview for the factory nurse position. Better pay, better hours. I think I'm going to take it. Me. I'm still in the studio above the bakery. My credit score is trash, but it's recovering. The bank took the house, but since the market was up, the sale covered the mortgage and a tiny bit of the debt. I'm dating again. Well, not dating, but I went to coffee with a guy from the library. He paid. He asked me questions about myself. He didn't look at his phone once. I still have moments where I panic, where I wake up reaching for the ledger or checking my bank app in a cold sweat. But then I smell the sourdough from downstairs, and I remember, the parasite is gone. I didn't get my mother's money back. That's gone forever. But I like to think she'd be proud of how I spent the last of my energy, burning his life to the ground so I could build my own. Worth every penny. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.